What is going on, everybody? We have about a 2-minute buffer here before the show. So if you are watching this live on demand, that's not a thing. How do we create that? Live on demand. It's like Spaceballs, the movie. It's out before it's even finished. If you're watching, what is that? What are you playing over there, Nathan? Is that Nathan or was that Mica playing music?
That wasn't me.
All right.
Sorry, that was your commercial. My bad.
Oh, geez, what a guy! I don't get to pick them. Although I watched a commercial, on like a Basgrim video, and it was like Buff Basgrim. I don't know if you guys. I put it in like one of the Discords. I don't remember what it was, and I was just laughing. I'm like, Basgrim, like they literally have Buff Basgrim as the commercial for you. It was great. What's up, Stand and Fire? How are you? So we'll be starting up here in about a minute. Like I said, just a little quick pre-show here to get stuff fired up, and we'll get into talking about loot, our favorite items in MMORPGs. Should be pretty fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Oh yeah. All right, well that's 9. So let's get started with this. I'm gonna throw up the viewer warning featuring one of our guests tonight, and we'll jump right into this.
Oh, we're live? We're streaming right now? Cool. Awesome, man. Let me just
All right. Welcome everybody to episode 2 of Rankum. Stands in Fire, what is going on? Marks, hello, and Theric, how are you doing, buddy? Tonight we are going to be talking about MMORPG loot. And it's funny because if you look at the top of my screen, I obviously didn't prepare it because the text at the top still says episode 1. So let's go ahead and change that live. Like, listen, can't be perfect all the time. So we'll go episode 2. That's going to be important. And let's go ahead and change that topic. See, when you think sometimes you get everything right, and then you don't. All right, so top 5 favorite loot. This was a tough one. I know that Mica, as my all the time co-host here, running this show with me, when we talked about this topic, like we better start early because this is going to take a lot of planning. And then I reached out, and I said, well, if we get a guest for this show, we need to have somebody on this show who has played a lot of MMORPGs. And instantly I was like, Nathan. So Nathan, welcome to tonight's show as our co-host, or as our special guest, I guess I should say, for the night.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, Mica, I know you got your stuff already. This is our episode 2. I thought episode 1 went really well. We had a lot of really good debate. I loved that the chat was giving us their top 5 all through the night. So chat, if you're watching, we are going to be happy to throw your favorite stuff out there. So if you have loot you want to talk about or just throw out there, please do. But let's go ahead and jump right into this. We'll start with our guest like we always do. And we're going to start by showing Nathan's number 5 favorite loot. So Nathan, I'm going to pop it up on the screen. Then you just tell us what you think about it, introduce the loot, and tell us why it's on your list. So there you go.
Okay. So first of all, I want to say that this was really hard to do. All right. Really freaking hard. But number 5, my number 5 pick was the Dragon Head, which was a housing item, right? Which might seem a little weird, right? But it was so prestigious to have this, right? So obviously, this was from Dark Age of Camelot. The game wasn't known for a lot of raiding, but it had, at least back when I played, it had 1 raid per round. And each realm had a dragon. I was in Albion, so the picture you're seeing is of our dragon that we had. Don't remember her name, but she dropped the head obviously 1 time. And you had to roll for it, right? And it was a pretty big raid. 50, 60, 70 people or so would be in the raid. So you had a very low shot of getting it. I did acquire a few of these actually throughout my time playing because it was the only raid, right? So every time there was a dragon raid, I went. But loved that item. I would just go to my house and look at it with my... And the cool thing about this was you didn't just get the head and you go and you mount it. You had to get a taxidermist, somebody who crafted in that to actually fashion it that way so it was not just a head in your inventory, but something you could actually put on the wall. And I still love that item. Still one of my favorites.
That's awesome. Yeah, it doesn't always have to be loot. I'll tell you, like a weapon or anything like that. That's actually really interesting that you put that up there like that as a housing item. Now, so your housing in that game, like what was the housing like? Could other people come in and see that? Did they have to go in with you? Was it like right there?
There was a lot of interesting things about the housing in the game. Number one, it was instanced, not really instanced, but like it had zones, right? So there was tons of zones of housing, and you went in. Yours was in one zone. It was a huge zone, and if I remember correctly, they were just numbered, right? Like there was like zone 1 through 100, whatever. It'd be like 150 houses per zone. But the reason that your housing mattered, you could make your house a guild house or whatever you wanted it to be. Anybody could just walk in. If they were in that zone, your house, you don't share that. That's really your house. A yard with yard decorations, all that. But you saved a lot of money on their version of the auction house if you went to their physical location and got the item off of their vendor. So you could search for the item. It told you what house, what zone, and then so people come in your house to buy stuff off your vendor all the time, so they'd see all your cool loot.
That's awesome. That's pretty cool. You know, I remember the only real experience, Mica, I've ever had with like housing and putting things in my house was like, Morrowind. I like killed a bunch of people in a house I wanted, and then I just put a bunch of loot on shelves.
Yeah.
I love housing in games, all games. I'm a big housing freak.
So you can feel Nathan's love there, having something like a sweet, rare dragon head on your wall in your house.
Yeah, I don't know why. I didn't even think of housing when I went to make my list. I could have put a few things from there.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Welcome to a bunch of people who've come in since the show started. Lexer, welcome in. It was our first our first special guest. Michael Abram, welcome in. We got Lena Lutton, welcome in. So, and Anthony, he said kapow, kapow. All right, so Michael, we're going to drop your number 5. Are you ready?
Yep.
There you go.
My number 5 is the Joy Use from Final Fantasy XI.
Okay, so tell us a little bit.
Obviously, it used to be we called it the Joy Toy for short, but this is actually the one that got away. I never got this piece, ever. I wanted it so bad. I was a career Red Mage, one of the best swords at the time for Red Mage, but it dropped from a notorious monster that spawned, I think every 48 hours, the window opened.
Okay.
And it had a 12-hour window. So you would have to camp this thing for literally days, and you were always competing against other parties. And it's like we were able to claim the Notorious a few times, and we got it to drop twice, and people would ninja loot it.
Oh.
And so I never.
So you actually were in a group that saw it twice, but you never.
Never got it. Yeah. It was painful.
I feel your pain on that one.
So I mean, to this day, I part of me really wants to just still farm this item, even though I don't need it anymore. just
to check it off the list.
Yeah, I've always wanted it, especially being a Red Mage. I really wanted it, and yes, this is my one that got away. This is the one I obsess over still.
So the item actually. Was that?
Has it gotten easier to get that one now, Mica?
No, not really.
Okay.
So there's less competition for it because it's kind of worthless now. But yeah.
Well, what's it? So it occasionally attacked twice. I guess back when that dropped, that was a big deal, right?
That was a big deal, especially for Red Mage with the end spells, because you could charge up your sword to do elemental damage.
Oh,
yeah. So.
Well, you guys, Nathan, you played quite a bit of Final Fantasy XI. Does that sword ring a bell? Do you remember the sword or the boss at least?
I think I do, because I think I remember. Some. I could be wrong, right? But I think I remember some guildies trying to tell me that I needed to get it, and wanting me to do some runs with them. But I'm not 100%, but I think so, because I think I remember doing the attack twice. But I definitely never had it. That's for sure.
It was a giant squid deep in the heart of Sea Serpent Grotto that dropped it. Can't remember his name, but yeah.
All right. Well, I got nothing else to say on that one. A double hit sword, that reminds me of the Iron Foe from back in WoW. The double attack. It would just occasionally do a different attack, which was cool. It was a super rare item from BRD, I think. Okay, so let me go ahead. I'm going to drop mine. And guys, I do apologize. It looks like Discord's having some trouble tonight. Their video's a little fuzzy, but you guys can hear them good. That's what matters. So let me go ahead and throw up number 5. Here we go. I did a full set. I had to. I blame Nathan. Lambent armor. Man, when I play, Nathan, you know, I was playing EQ. I started as a wizard, and every alt I made was because of jealousy of seeing somebody else do something amazing and be like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. When I saw a bard run by me at light speed with, I think, a drum of Mistmore, was it? The drums he could get. And that blue, beautiful shining armor. Oh my God. Like, nothing looked like that in the game. Like, there wasn't anything even close to as like flamboyant as that armor at first, like when it was first out. And I just remember doing whatever it took, like anything I could, trading anything I could. Just, I wanted a full set. And when I got my bard, her name was Too Hot to Handle, by the way.
Love it.
Half elf female bard.
Wait a minute, what was that?
Half.
That was a half elf?
Half elf.
Oh, okay.
My wizard was a dark elf. So, I mean, it gets worse. But but yeah, that beautiful blue lambent armor. I think anybody who played EQ saw that armor and they were like, yeah, this armor's hot. And I don't know if any armor that I've seen has impressed me so much as lambent armor and EQ. I know that there's gear that looks better. But it just, at the time, it stood out so much from any other gear. So lambent armor, that's my number 5 loot item. Any comments on that, Mica? You don't have any, huh? Have you ever seen it? Look how beautiful it is. Shiny blue. Shiny blue plate. Shiny.
It was a very beautiful armor.
Yeah, Nathan, you know.
Yeah, never had it or anything, but seen it a lot.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump into number 4 for our guest, NathanNAPALM. So you have to explain this one.
I'm sorry, because of delay, I don't remember my order. Let's see, which one are we on?
It should be up now. The Winged Helm.
Oh, the Winged Helm. Yes. So this is also from Dark Age Camelot. All right. So here's the deal. If we have any DAOC people that watch this are going to get upset that I put. How dare I put an artifact armor from the expansion that killed the game or whatever, right? So this came from Trials of Atlantis, the most hated expansion in the game, where they introduced artifact armor, took away from crafters and stuff a lot, pretty much destroyed the game. But it was the coolest freaking thing, right? Like, you got to remember, like I was saying earlier, Dark Age Camelot didn't have a lot of raids, right? Yeah. So when Trials of Atlantis came out, it was like a whole freaking expansion of nothing but raids, right? Because they didn't make the character levels any bigger. They just said, here's a ton of raids, right? So we were getting to do tons of raids. And this one, if I remember correctly, you had to go fight a statue that looked like Hermes. And there was these harpies attacking them. And I don't remember all the mechanics. But anyway, this dropped from Helm. And you had to have a whole group go with you. I believe it was only one group of 8 people in order to do it, and only, it was everybody had to do it just for the one person to get the drop, right? Okay. So it was the Winged Helm. But what made this really cool was that it had good stats and all that. You had to level it up. So it took 8 billion experience points to get one level, and I think it had 10 levels. And once you leveled it up, which took forever, it was a really awesome piece of armor. But it looked cool, and it was one of the first, not the first time, but it was one of the few times that I felt like, I had all this armor and I stood in town and everybody's like, whoa, what is all this crazy stuff this guy has? And people would like come up to me and take screenshots. So definitely have a soft spot for the Winged Helm. Love it.
I love it. I don't know. Do you guys, in the games you've played, if you had to think of all the gear slots, let's take weapons out because most people are going to say weapons. But what was the gear slot item that was like most important to you that like for looks, like Like Nathan, was it helmet for you or what was it typically?
It's always either the helmet or the chest piece.
Okay.
Always for me.
Micah, how about you?
Body piece, definitely.
Yeah, for me, since I played a lot of WoW, it was either shoulders or head.
Shoulders. See,
I
wouldn't even thought of that. Yeah.
I built a lot of gear set, like transmogs. Like if I was building a transmog, I either built it off the shoulders, the helmet, or the weapon. And then I designed the whole transmog from those pieces, which is pretty funny.
So did you prefer your Blanche, your Dorothy, your Sophia, or your Rose?
Golden Girls? Are we going Golden Girls second?
Shoulders.
Yeah. I just want you guys to know we are now 100% of all Rankum shows have mentioned the Golden Girls.
Keep that tradition going.
That's got to keep going. Mike, that's your job. Like you gotta just somehow get it in. All right. Like
bring up WoW shoulders. Now bring up the Golden Girls.
No, you got to get more creative with it. Like you got to like get a quote from one of the shows and tie it. You got to like start researching the Golden Girls.
I don't have to. I can quote that show. Like I love me some Golden Girls.
Why have we never gotten a Golden Girls MMO? It's a perfect world. It's a perfect world to do one.
Do you guys know Funko Pop has that new board game that's kind of like a strategy game, but it's made for like all ages? It's actually pretty fun. And one of the expansions they made is a Golden Girls expansion. Like you can literally use the Funko Golden Girls to fight your way. It's hilarious. All right. Well, Micah, that brings up your number 4. Now, before we go, Stands in Fire put his number 5 up. So let's read that. He can stay on pace with us. And guys, if you want to throw your favorite loot up, any of them, or just a piece that you want us to talk about, throw it up there. But Stands in Fire says number 5 for him was the Earth Gore Helm in ESO. He said he went in with a few friends to vet Blood Rot Forge, which was known to be a meat grinder. We pounded our heads against learning the fights. We weren't optimized, but we finally made it after much repairing. And I got half of what was the premier healing monster set. Nice. So big healing piece. I did not play much ESO, so I'm not super familiar with that. So, all right. So let's go ahead, Michael. We're going to throw up your number 4. Also from Final Fantasy 11.
Yep, from the Warlock's Tabard from Final Fantasy 11. And this one was, so this is a piece of artifact gear. This is kind of like something that you normally just get. But I was a career red mage. I actually started off as red mage. And this was one of those pieces where I had to go to the castle of Astrosia and pop a chest to get it. And I was struggling because I had the coffer keys came from high level mobs and I was still new, Castle Astrosia was a maze, so I was kind of wandered around trying to figure out what I was, trying to get a key and trying to find the chest because the chest moved spots all over the place all the time. And it was also hard to find because at that time, if the chest popped, it took, I think, an hour to respawn.
Oh, wow. And it would respawn in different places?
Yeah,
so it was a maze with a different place and it would respawn once an hour. That's...
Yeah. So it's like, so I was out there and I was struggling and it's like, I had my guild, but we were all low levels. I was one of the higher levels because Red Mage leveled so fast. And some random person just would send me a tell. I was like, are you trying to farm a key for your tabard? Because they saw me as Red Mage. And I was like, yes. So they grouped up with me, they helped me, and then she actually joined my guild and was one of the first high level people to join in that just helped us out.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So it's kind of like a special memory sort of thing.
That's awesome. No, it's a good story with it too. How'd it look?
Red Mage was out. I was pimping. So yeah.
all the artifact gear in Final Fantasy 11, in my opinion, looked freaking awesome.
Really? Was that like the traditional sets? Like, what was because I played a thief or a rogue. I'm sorry. It was thief. Yeah. I played a thief when I had played that game very briefly. And of course I played it because I was a big Final Fantasy Tactics fan, right? So all I wanted, I saw the pictures that you could wear like the green gear with the feather. And I'm like, that's all I want. Was that their artifact gear? Is that what that was?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
And they had another set at 70 to 75 that was exactly the same but blue for thief.
Okay, green. I'd have been so upset to get rid of that green armor if I ever got it. Good thing I didn't. I couldn't get past rabbits. No. So
There's a lot of rabbits in the beginning.
So Theric threw out his number 5, and this is funny. This is a good one. The Greater Lightstone. It was the first real drop that you could make money off of an EQ. Many wisps died to meet my needs for funds. I remember that. I remember that well. Yep, that's pretty good. And Ex Mako said wisdom dolls. Was that the little voodoo doll that you could hold in both hands? It was like purple and had little like straw coming out of the hands and the head. Was that what that was in EQ? Wisdom dolls? I don't know if that was them. Mako, tell me if I'm right on that or not. All right, so number 4 for me. Here we go. So number 4 for mine is the Orb of Sindorai. So this is a item that dropped in BC when the Isle of Quadonos came out, which was where a lot of the Blood Elves were. That was like the introduction of the Blood Elf area. It was a late expansion area that had, honestly, I think it was like the first real heavy dailies area ever added. A lot of rep grind. There was raid up there, and then there was Magisters Terrace. So here's another funny part about this. Obviously, I'm a heavy Alliance player. And the only time I ever wanted to make Horde was when the Blood Elves showed up, because they were like anorexic rock stars. Like I was like, oh, that's what I want to be. Yes, again, this is a bad show for me with elves. But, so I like, and I'm an Alliance guy, like through and through. I'm an Alliance guy, but I wanted to be a Blood Elf so bad, and I was so upset because we got Draenei and they got Blood Elves. I'm like, come on. Like, give them Draenei. They're more evil looking than Blood Elves. And he was, yeah, exactly. Gula Gula said minus the emo elf. Totally. Emo, cocaine chic, I guess you could call them. They all stood all sassy. And I love...
They were the most beautiful race in the game. And still are, in my opinion.
So good. So good. Real skinny ears, and they had the real big eyebrows. I love them. I loved it. So we're doing Magisters Terrace, and this is a very rare item. And on our first run, it dropped. And I was in a guild group, and everyone knew, like me, like I was always about looks, even before transmog was a thing, because transmog didn't come around until Cataclysm, I think.
So dang, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So I always would have gear that I'd put on to look cool. Like I was always about how I looked, and that dropped. And I'm going to admit it right here. Like I begged them, like, please guys, please. I know you guys want this. I will use it more than anybody, please. So I rolled, and I'm waiting, and no one else rolled. And they said, it's all yours, buddy. I'm like, oh wow. So, and it was super rare. Yeah. And I never saw it again. I never saw it drop ever again. And I ran that place like crazy.
Wow.
That item from BC till the end of BFA was a constant spot on my interface, always. So we're talking, I mean, what, BC came out 2 years after Vanilla or something like that. We're talking 11, 12 years. That item was a fixture on my bar. And then when it became a toy where you could put it into your inventory and like use it on all your characters account wide, I was just a huge fan of it. And Gulu Gulu just brought up the Orb of Deception because it would change you into the Horde. And I had one of those too.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of humans. And the human, it was set by race. So if you used an Orb of Deception as a human, it turned you into an orc. And I hated orcs. So like I had it, but I didn't use it much because I didn't want to turn it into like a female orc, right? But it's funny because he said, it turned his gnome warlock into a Tauren, which how hilarious is that? You go from being little to like massive. That would be cool. So, but yeah, the Orb of Sindorai, I got it really early, and again, 11 years on my bar. Like I loved it, and it was the only way I would be comfortable being a blood elf. So,
dude, I know this was over a decade ago and everything, but I just want to say congrats for getting that.
And I think I rolled like a 4 out of 100 because like I was the first one. I'm like, oh my god, I want that. I rolled a 4. I'm like, please, guys, I really want. I was so pathetic, and I don't think I was the guild leader. I might have been like an officer, and then I was just like, guys, like, please let me have this.
We've all been there.
I wanted it so bad. So yeah, that's my number 4. And you guys, anyone sharing their list, please share your number 4 if you've already shared your 5. We have a Rhodium LOL said number 5, Cruel Barb in Classic.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So Cruel Barb in Classic. Okay, so let's go ahead and Nathan, we're going to jump over to you for your number 3.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, hopefully.
Dragon?
Yeah, the Dragon armor set. So this was from Final Fantasy 11. This was, you know what, guys? It was just the artifact gear. It was like your job gear, right?
Mhm.
There was a better version you get later, whatever. But I'm talking about the original set that you got towards the end of your leveling up period. So higher levels, you started getting piece by piece as you're getting up to max level. They were all fairly difficult to get, not like rare drop, but like you had to do a lot of things. You had to get people to come help you to go to certain places that were dangerous and help you. It was difficult to get it all. But when I got it all, my first character in Final Fantasy 11 was a Dragoon, and I'd already seen people with this armor, right? Like not often, but every once in a while I'd catch a Dragoon, their full set of armor, and it looked like Kane from Final Fantasy 4, which was what they got the idea from, and it looked so freaking sweet, and I just had to have it, right? Like, I wasn't a Dragoon, for real, until I had this full set of gear. And I just remember when I got it, man. To this day, for armor sets, man, I've never been more proud of wearing a set of gear as I was of that, because I felt like a real Dragoon. It had some really good stats on it, too. It really helped. It mainly had to do with the Wyvern pet, because in that game, the Dragoon had a dragon pet.
Okay.
It mainly, like, gave him regen, enhanced his accuracy, made his hit points higher, stuff like that. And it was a very lightweight plate armor set. It just looked so cool, man. It was all about the looks, because by the time you get the full set, a lot of the lower level stuff you got while you're leveling up was already like not good for you anymore.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter, man. I wore that crap. I wore it out. There was no at that time there was no like transmog or anything. So like I would wear other gear that was better, and then as soon as I was out of the party, man, I was slapping my Draken armor set back on.
I love it. I love that so much.
If you ever play again, they do have a transmog sort of thing going on now.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, they have a something lock, I think is what it's called.
Yeah, this going back in time and talking about some of this stuff makes me want to go back and play all these games.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 11's getting some mad representation. We got quite a bit going on right there, so that's
there was
awesome.
some rare stuff in that game.
Rare and gear was so super important because of the gear swapping.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of gear swap in that game. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Like anything on that armor in particular that you remember? Did you really ever play a Dragoon?
Me?
Yeah.
I was almost always Red Mage.
Okay.
I dabbled mostly in Thief and Bard as well, but I did get that because I leveled all my stuff up.
Yeah.
So I just never really played too much.
And before we move on, I want to say one thing about the Dragoon. In the early days of Final Fantasy 11, they were complete garbage because their pet would die in a raid so quick, right? Like you couldn't tell where to go, if I'm remembering correctly. And so he'd get hit by an AoE and he would be dead. And man, without your dragon's damage, you were trash.
And it
Dragoon,
took 2 hours to resummon that dragon.
yeah, 2 hours to resummon it. So you're just trash for the next 2
Yeah.
hours. Yeah, it was embarrassing, dude. Because it's not like it was your fault. You're just doing your best, And you have to do melee, so you got to get close, and then you run out of the way to AOE. Pet doesn't. He stays to do a heal or whatever in the heck he's doing at that time. He dies, and then you're just like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm trash.
That has to feel so bad.
They fixed it later, but yeah.
I was gonna say they better have. I couldn't even imagine. That would be so
bad.
miserable.
It was like a meme class because of that. Yeah.
All right. Well, we have Stand in Fire put his number 4 up, and he says it's the Quicksilver Pendant of Concentration. Back in the early days, people getting to 60 and starting the raid in WoW, things were pretty clicky. And on top of that, as a priest, you did one of two things in the meta. You either stacked Spirit for regen or Intelligence for mana pull. Yes, priest did this back in the day. He actually needed mana. If you didn't get any of the good gear, you instead found cast-offs. And another friend and I found early MP5 BOE greens. People scoffed, but it was the current meta because we quickly became the priests that put out the longest lasting slots in tank rotation on fights like Domo because we stacked MP5. Man, I remember when MP5 was a thing. It's interesting. MP5 and HP5 regen. Yeah, awesome. All right, so Mica, we're going to go to your number 3 now. And let me go ahead and put this up on screen for you. Final Fantasy 11. Go for it.
Yep, the moldy earring. So this one, this one's just memorable because I am such a nice guy to play video games with. Like I'm
very humble. Very humble.
I am. I'm really nice when I'm playing games, and it's like even if like you annoy me or you piss me off, I'll mute my mic if I want to say this, whatever. And this one also came from a notorious monster. I can't remember which zone, but it came from a goblin notorious monster, and that goblin had a couple hour respawn, and this was also another hot item. So we were down there, and I'd always group up with people, and then we instead of competing with each other for the poll, I'd like just group up, and then whoever gets the drop gets the drop. Well, I'd lost it a few times. I was in there by myself, and the notorious monster spawned. I was in the middle of the room, and he spawned by the door. And so I go running after him and start casting, and someone comes through the door and pulls him. Just like walked in and pulled him. And I was like, dude, I've been here for days trying to, because I like 3 or 4 days. And I'm like, I've been here for days trying to get this. And they're just like, oh, well, we need it for our quest. I'm like, this isn't a quest mob. They're like, well, we need it for our thief quest. I'm like, those are regular goblins. That's not this guy. This guy drops this guy. I'm like, I need it for, and they were just like, yeah, I need it for my quest. And I'm just like, dude, wrong mob. I'm like, come on.
Like pleading.
Turned out I told them, I'm just like, just die. I'll raise you, no harm, no foul, whatever. Well, they decided they were just going to kill it. And they're just like, oh, well, this sucks. We don't even need that.
Oh.
I exploded. I've never cussed someone out so strong in a game. I'm surprised they didn't report me for a ban. I mean, and it's so hard to provoke me to that point. But I was so mad, and I'm just in there, and I'm just typing, and I'm just like screaming at them. They're just like, I'm sorry, we don't know what it was. And I'm just like, I told you. And it's just, I mean, I get pretty colorful.
They didn't give it to you?
Well, you can't trade it. So once it drops, it drops. So I was so mad. And so I always remember the moldy earring because of that. And then I even logged out and I went to sleep, and I just remember where you have so much rage that you can almost feel like leaving your body. that was me at that moment. And I fell asleep. I woke back up, logged back into the game. I was the only one in the room again. Went, made myself, got a bowl of cereal, came back, and he was there. I killed him, and I got it.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Karma. Good karma.
Yeah, karma for sure. That's not a bad one.
I mean, it was like one of those few moments, because I'm usually, like I said, I'm usually so nice to other people in games because it's just, but man, I exploded.
Do you remember that earring at all, Nathan, or was that a...
I do, yeah. Once again, memory's very fuzzy. It was so many years ago, but I remember the moldy earring, yeah.
That's funny. All right, yeah, obviously I don't remember that one, but I can feel your pain in the story there. Stands in Fire. Yeah, Stands in Fire says, quote, "We didn't know what it was," end quote. No, you didn't listen repeatedly.
Right. Failed to listen.
And good evening to Hurricane, who jumped in. And Lexer said to Mica, when you were talking about how you'll just mute your mic and start screaming, he says, oh, that's why you always go silent when we're chatting. So good one. We got a number 4 here from Theric. Kudzu, the epic bow. If I said that right. Kudzu, the epic bow from Guild Wars 2, is a pain in the ass to get. You had to grind a lot of dungeons and it took forever, but it was a great bow. It also had one of the coolest particle effects that left a trail of flowers on the ground behind you as you ran.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty neat. I was going to make an elf joke, but it's actually kind of cool. So, no joke. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to bring up my number 3. And this is a tough one for you guys to possibly see on stream because this is an old item in EQ. This is the Harvester. another item that looked super cool. If anyone doesn't know what it is, you'd probably know by looking at it. It was, if you remember Necros and they used to wear just the black robe way back in the day, there was a scythe that you could hold in your one hand. It was a one-handed like black scythe with a silver thing, and it was like an offhand item. It just gave you a boost of stats. Now, it wasn't the fact that the item looked great, right? So it was like if you were a Necro and you had like a skull in one hand and like your little harvester scythe in the other hand, you looked amazing. But the thing with this item that was really cool was it was a quest. And I know that sounds funny to some people, but EverQuest didn't have many quests when it started. Like,
Yeah.
it was, and if you found a quest, it was like almost accidental because like you hailed somebody and it was like, hey, bring me this. And you're like, I don't know where that is. Well, what happened with this is that the key item to this, the only, like, in my opinion, the only hard item to get was in the Estate of Unrest. And it would drop, it was like these eyes that would drop off like the secret hall area, with like these terrors, I think, that dropped it, or maybe it was the bats, but there was this secret hall area before you would fall into like the pit and you could sit back there. And the dungeon was really way too hard for the level I was, but people would kill them all the time just walking through there. So me and my buddy would find a way to sneak in as Necros and we'd sit in that hallway and we would loot all those eyes that we needed. And we would get a ton of them and nobody needed them. So we would just sit there and pray that when one spawned, we were far enough away and didn't die, but people were always going through there. So we started collecting all these things. Now, when this first showed up, we were right on it. There weren't a lot of them out there, and we just loved it because we both were playing a Necro at the time. And so we got this item, and we just started making hundreds of them. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, we spent weeks and weeks and months making harvesters. And literally it was like this crazy amount of platinum we would get. And then the market was just dropping and dropping and dropping. Like, we literally killed the market on our own by just overflowing this item onto like into the East Commons tunnels and selling it and selling it and selling it. And it was really the first time in any MMORPG that I ever made a ton of money through this quest, just doing it over and over and over and over. And I'll never forget that. It looked cool, but it was again the first like economic thing I ever did in the game where we farmed something just to make money, and we made a ton of money. That's how I got a lot of my good gear, because I was pretty young. I didn't get into a lot of raiding groups, so a lot of my gear I bought, and it was funded from that harvester, a ton of it. That was a cool item. Do you remember the harvester, Nathan, in EQ?
I do. I didn't at first. When you were first mentioned, I was trying to think, but after you described it, I definitely remember it. I gotta ask you though.
Yeah.
Because I've been in similar type situations where you find a system in an MMO that works to your advantage, right?
Yeah.
So did you sometimes wonder while you guys were doing this a lot, right, that you were like, man, we're kind of cheating. We're kind of cheating the system kind of feeling, you know what I mean? I was blinded by money.
I was blind. Again, I wasn't in like a big guild. I was pretty young. I was 16 when we were playing this, and I was discovering what this game was. I didn't know, nobody really knew what an MMO was, and it was hard, and I was dying, and I always wanted cool stuff, and I could never afford cool stuff. And then this came along, and I'm pretty sure I bought my Lambent armor with the money I made from this. I'm pretty sure I bought my fungi tunic from the money I made from this.
Wow.
I got so much. Like, at one point, I think, as crazy as it sounds early in the day, I continuously remember it was like 1,000 platinum at one point. What? And like back then, that was insane. Like, I had maybe 2 platinum total, and I was selling this thing for 1,000 a pop for a while. It was crazy. Absolutely.
Derek says harvester economy.
For me. Yeah. And you guys know me, I don't have much money in MMOs, so that was a big deal to me. That was a pretty big one. And again, it was just a repeatable quest. You could do it as many times as you wanted. And I think it was a lore item. What did that mean? Is it you only have one of them?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So we had to sell it before we could make another one. So that was how crazy it was. So like we'd both get one, and then we'd have to sell them before we could go farm it again. So it was just this back and forth. Like, it was go into the Estate of Unrest, get these couple pieces. The other pieces were easy. We could get those simple. And then we would run to East Commons Tunnel, sell it, run back to State of Unrest. And that's a journey. And just keep back and forth. East Common to Unrest, East Common to Unrest. That's why I like the game. That was the whole game. Yeah. Everyone's telling these epic stories, and we're just these two gnomes like. But yeah, that's fine. So we had number 3 from Stands and Fire. He says was the Captain's Legendary Greatsword. Missed the original days of Mines of Moria in LORT, Lord of the Rings Online. I didn't even say that order right. Lord of the Rings Online. So I was late to the Legendary item party, but the first time getting an item that I could use, that I could level up, spec the bonuses out on, customize, and take with you was just so appealing. Of course, I quickly learned what everyone else knew. They were just another grind that you would replace as you leveled. But for a brief time, it was amazing, and the concept and promise alone. So that's pretty cool. All right, we're getting up into our top 2. Nathan, are you ready for your number 2?
I guess I'm ready. Yeah.
All right, here you go.
Everybody knows this one. Everybody knows this one.
Yep.
So, the J boots, right? So freaking awesome, dude. Because why? Because 15. If I'm going off memory here, but I believe it was 15% run speed, which transfers over to mouse speed or what have you. But 15% in EverQuest, where you had to run for freaking ever all the time. You know what I mean? That was epic because I never played a class to this day that had any kind of ability to make myself faster, right? Never to this day have I played one of those classes. No teleport, no nothing. So getting 15% run speed changed my life. Literally, I just felt like I was a god, man. I was like, oh my gosh, I can get. I remember timing it, right? I remember timing, like, look how quick I can get from here to there now, and all this kind of stuff. I was so excited, dude. I remember I had a friend over, and I was trying to show him, and he did not give a crap, right? Like, he was like, okay, dude, like, it's a little bit faster. It's like, you don't understand how much time I'm saving.
And kiting, if you had to run from enemies,
Yeah, running from enemies, getting back to a zone. So, when you're way deep in a place or whatever, and you have to run further to get to zone.
Train to zone.
Yep, train to zone, all that stuff, man. That was out of all of EverQuest, and once again, I never got to raiding or anything like that, unfortunately, with EverQuest. So, to me, this was my most favorite EverQuest item ever. Was the Journeyman's Boots. Love it. And it was a clicky too, right? Am I remembering right? You had to click it, and it had a cooldown, all that, right?
So and so feels faster. Would just spam people's window if you stood next to him clicking on it in red text.
Yep. And you couldn't use it indoors, right?
No.
Is that right? You had to be outside.
Yep. So that's awesome.
When you first said J boots, I for some reason I registered as leaping boots.
Leaping boots is cool too, dude. Leaping boots are also epic.
I was like, I know that one too. And then I was like, nope,
J boots, also known as Journeyman's Boots.
Yeah, Journeyman's Boots. Yep.
Yeah. So that's a good one. I'm not gonna say anything more on that for right now. Spoiler. All right. So Mica, we're gonna go to your number 2. Here we go.
So yeah, my number 2 is Ifrit's Cane from Final Fantasy. So now this isn't the current Ifrit's Cane. This is the version 1. Because back version 1, Ifrit was the first primal that we got.
Yeah.
And you had to farm items to even go into the fight. You needed like 10 tokens to even go in the fight. So you had to go and you had to farm. And we started farming him, and it took how many? So after he died, a chest would pop, and then you would get the chest, and everybody got their own loot. So everybody had a chance to get a weapon. And it took me almost 70 kills to get my first weapon, and that was it.
Yeah, I remember those fights because I played Final Fantasy 14 a lot, and when the first ones came out. I feel you there, man, without a doubt.
No, this was. Didn't you play a Realm Reborn?
Oh, this was before Realm Reborn?
Yeah, this was the original one. It was a totally different game back then.
Okay. Yeah, so my bad.
Back at the time, like, this was best in slot. And it was just, and we were, I was so just at the point of just utter disappointment and just kind of going through the motions, but me and the guildies were doing it, so I had to keep going. And I had told him, I said, if I don't get a drop this time, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm getting so this is so disappointing. I'm getting burnt out because everybody has like 5 weapons and I have nothing.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I got it. So I was like, cool. And it worked too because I was the healer. So
that's nice.
It was like,
yeah, I do. I mean, I guess it was nowhere near as hard because I'm even reading in chat. Stands on Fire said he heard horror stories when they were doing the new version of it about how hard it used to be. I remember struggling to get my weapons though for it's either my paladin or my summoner. I can't remember, but I remember one of them was pretty tough to get it on. I think it was just like I was not getting luck on it, but it might have been Titan. Now that I'm thinking about it, it might not have been.
Yeah,
especially if you're doing Titan Extreme.
Yeah,
because that Titan Extreme
was Titan Extreme the first? Was it so when they released them? It was all of them, and then the second tier was Extreme, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So Titan Extreme was nuts. That was when we had to walk all around the map, and like he would. I just remember it being crazy. I just remember.
Well, he had like 5 landslides that would go out in every direction that would push you off the platform and permakill you. And
there used to be lags, so like you would actually be out of the way. That used to burn me up, dude. I broke probably 5 keyboards because I would move out of the way. Like my body would be out of the path when I died. And it's like if I died out of the path, then I was out of the path. Oh man. Titan was hard back when Realm Reborn first launched. Even he was still pretty.
Yeah, that was the one that stood out for me for sure, being really tough. That's awesome. That was that's a legendary item at that point. I mean, you can't get it anymore. It's from a game that doesn't even exist anymore.
Exactly.
Well, you can still get it, but it's like because the fight's still there.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of worthless.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be. Yeah.
So.
A great thing here when we'll read Theric's number 3. But on the next level, and thank you for the follow. Do appreciate that a ton. He asked the question. I'm curious if you guys want to answer this. Am I the only one who hangs on to their starter gear forever? Kind of just for fun. Do you guys do that?
Some games I do. Some games. So I used to think eventually they'll change the starter gear and this will be worth something. I remember there was a time in my life but I don't think that ever actually happened. So now a lot of times I just throw it in the trash.
I trash it the second I replace it. And they don't even let you sell them most of the time anymore. So I literally have to drag it and delete it.
Yep.
So I usually save that stuff but it also depends on inventory space.
Yeah.
Around Reborn, you don't want to throw it away because you're probably going to have to, well, I guess you have to for your sub job. You're going to have to go back. Final Fantasy 11, same thing. You want to keep your lower level gear as long as it translates over to the same type of gear because you're going to have to do a sub job. You're probably going to do another job later. So in those games, I absolutely keep all my gear so that
I still have dated gear in Final Fantasy 14, which is gear from version 1 that they didn't. Cool. I still have dated gear, and I still have like tokens and everything like that were taken out of the game. I still have. I'm like, I can't throw them away. 7 years later, I still have them. Yep.
It's funny because I think of all the things I hoard. So like on the next level, I know you're like, nothing ever usually happens with it, but I just keep it all the time just in case or just for fun. I hoard just because I get rid of those super quick doesn't mean I don't hoard tons of things. When I have to do like a guild or bank cleanup, it's a whole day event because like I keep like 15 pieces of every slot of gear just in case I needed to get dexterity instead of this because that's the new meta. I am obsessive with gear and statistics. I'd get a new trinket and I would sim it with all the gear in my bank, piece by piece. Just to see, like, with this piece on, is this like it was a sickness. It was a sickness. It really was. So number 3 for Theric says, any heritage item from EQ2. I love that they immortalized some of the iconic loot from EQ in these quests to get them. I think I had a couple of them in EQ2, even though I couldn't use them, just for old time's sake. I think I had the fishbone earring, had no use for it, but I love that it existed. That's neat. I didn't know EQ2 like just brought like items back from EQ1. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it did. Yeah,
that's pretty cool. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to jump to my number 2. Maybe. Where am I? There I am. All right, so another vanity item from World of Warcraft, Deathbringer's Reigns. So This dropped in Deadside Strat. Deadside Strat, and dropped off Baron Rivendell. Dale, whatever his name was. In the area where you had to go in and like all the big Stitches guys would come out and you'd have to kill him, and then you'd go down in his little thing and he'd be in the stables and you'd fight him and kill him. The rarity of the mount was insane. It was I think it was less than 1% drop rate. Really, really, really hard. Now, what's interesting about this is the story around it. So, I like titles and I like vanity items. For these items, I'm going to be completely honest with you, these 1% chance items, I didn't farm them very much because I kind of just, when it was like a 1% or less, I was like, I'm not going to get it. Like, whatever. So I didn't do it much. I didn't farm those types of items incredibly. And if I got them, it was more lucky. But the thing with this is on my Paladin, they had released a title called the Argent Champion, which was a great Paladin title, right? Benefits the Argent Paladin, like, or Argent Champion. And it was based off of the new Argent Dawn rep in whatever expansion I was in, but also the old original strat. Now, keep in mind at this point, I was really strong. I was a Paladin. I could go into strat, just pull every single mob on me, hit my consecrate and kill them. But why I was doing it was for the rep. And I'd have to loot every item because they would give you these little tokens that you could turn in back at the monastery nearby on in the Plaguelands. So I had no rep for that faction. I had the new rep maxed out, and it might have been Wrath now that I think about it. But I had all the new rep maxed, but I had 0 rep from strat on that character from the old Argent. So I literally started at 0, and I had to get it all the way to Exalted, to the max. And the only way to do it was to do quest lines and collect that stuff, and eventually you ran strat until you got it. So I spent about an entire week running strat, just literally over and over and over and over. And I'd kill him every time because he was worth rep and I'd probably get a token, but I never had any dream of getting them out. So this is a true 100% story of what I'm about to tell you. It was my last run. I literally had it all calculated because I was getting so close. Like this run, every run gets me between this and this amount. So I knew that I got, like, you know how when you get so close, it's like you should have had it by now. Like the next run, you're definitely going to get it. That's how close I was. So I say to my guild, who knows I've been doing this for weeks, I'm like, okay, guys, I'm going to get the mount this time. And they're like, yeah, okay. Just joking. And I got it. It literally dropped. I dinged, got my title, and the mount dropped. And I am going insane. I'm like, I got it. Everyone's like, yeah, right. Because I just literally said, this is it, guys. I'm going to get it. And it literally dropped. Like, I got like a chill over my body. And I was just like looking at the screen like, wait, what? And I looted it. And I was just like, oh my God. I'm sitting there like this by myself. Like just sitting there. My hands on my mouth. I'm typing in my guild. I got it. I got the mount. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. I'm like, come to whatever. Like, I'm like, let me get my faction. So here's me. I have my title, benefits the Argent Champion, and I'm sitting on my Rivendell mount, and they come up and like, I can't believe you got it. And it was epic, and that was another mount that I used forever. And the funny part is, back in the day, it looked awesome. When they redid a lot of like models and mount, it looks awful now. It's one of the worst. Like, it went from being so cool to having one of the worst like designs. It just looks really bad. It's like way less pixels. It's not as defined, but I busted that thing out till the end of time to be able to do it. And there's just a great story with it. So, but yeah, that mount that was a big one for me for sure. That one, Nathan, you kind of were hyped up right away when you heard that.
Yeah, I know about it. Yeah, definitely knew about that one.
Yeah. All right, so let's see. We're getting into our number ones. Before we do, Stands in Fire has his number 2 out there. And it looks like it is the Lore Spinner. If you played an Undead Priest in the first week or 2 of launch, then you got the original Undead Priest racial quest around level 6 in Brill before they pulled the quest and gave it a minor tweak. Then down the road, Dire Maul launched, and the gear there was borderline raid gear for certain specs, slots, including a dagger with MP5, whose quest reward wasn't even a drop. He couldn't get it. He couldn't get the quest because Blizzard recycled the quest ID from the original, immediately reworked Undead Priest to get your racial spell and reused the web quest. Got on every other character out of spite. Oh, so something changed and they had already had the ID done and they rechanged the ID, but he couldn't get it anymore. That's rough. Man. That's rough. That's definitely rough. All right, so here we go. If anybody, so wait, hold on. Before we go, Hurricane, here's his top 5. 5, J boots. 4, the boots of haste in Tibia. I didn't play Tibia. 3, Ashes of Alar. Oh, the Ashes of Alar mount. That was the Phoenix mount, right? From Sunwell, I think. The Ashes of Alar. Correct me if I'm wrong, Hurricane. 2, the Lionheart Executor in WoW. And number 1, the Swift Rosari Raptor in WoW. Is that the Raptor from BFA that dropped? The Swift Raptor? I wonder if that was it. Maybe not. Rhodium says, here's his. I'm going to give you in reverse. Let's see. Where's Rhodium? His number 1 is the Mace of the King in Mu Chaos. I don't even know what that is. A Brazilian private server, Mu Online. Do you know that one, Nathan?
Yeah. I played it shortly. Okay. Very grindy. Very Chinese MMO style.
Yep, so that was his there. And Tempest Keep, and the Raptor was from old ZG. Oh, the old ZG raid. Yes. That was a good mount. Yes, I remember that now. Okay, so we are going to get into our top now. Hurricane says he also has a very similar for the Raptor. That's awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead, and you're going to lead the way here with your number 1, Nathan. So I'm going to pop it up now. So there you go.
All right, so I don't expect a lot of people to know about this, right? But this was an epic, I'm talking freaking so epic, dude, drop, right? So it gave you 10% off all damage, magic, physical, whatever, right? Everybody would have loved to have this, right? The problem is it came from a notorious monster, world boss, King Behemoth, and he didn't spawn very often in the old days. When I say he didn't spawn very often, I mean maybe twice a year. I mean, not often. Yeah, like maybe 3 times a year if you're super lucky on your server, right? Way different now, right? But I'm talking about back then. Never spawned. Getting it just happened to be online, being online to be able to even be there when he spawned, and everybody went to go kill him was rare. So getting to even go there, then that sounds rare enough, right? Then he had a 5% drop rate of this ring. 5%. Twice a year, right? So you want to talk about epic freaking drop, right? You want to talk about like, there's, yeah, right, I'm never going to get that. And I was, at this time, I was playing a Paladin. So really great for a Paladin, right? To get the 10% damage taken, or minused off. Which, by the way, bad name. It's not really a defending ring. It's more like a absorption ring or whatever. But anyway... I just want to say real quick before I get into my story that there is a rumor that I even tried before this episode to see if it was true or not, and I couldn't find. I only found the same stories of people being like, yeah, it's true, but I never could find like official. There is a rumor that there was a even smaller chance that when you got the drop, that it would be high quality and that it would be minus 20% damage.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true or not, but anyway, just so happens that it was like a situation where I had like 2 hours to go to work or something like that, right? And I'm already kind of bummed out because I gotta quit playing Final Fantasy 11 because I gotta go to work and make money, I'm already kind of bummed out. And then I didn't even know about the defending ring. Had no idea, right? I knew there was good drops off of, Notorious Monsters or whatever. It popped. My guild was like, you should come with us. There's a slight they didn't even tell me how bad of a chance, right? They were just like, there's a slight chance you could drop this ring, be really good for you. I keep saying guild. It was called something else.
Shell. The Shell?
Shell, yeah. Link Shell, yeah. So anyway, I was like, guys, I don't have time. I have to go to work. They're like, trust me, it's worth it. Just call your boss, tell him you're not feeling good. You're going to be a little late. So I did. So I totally did, right? I called my boss. Was like, hey, man, I'm going to try to come in. Just give me a couple hours. Not been feeling good. Let me try to get myself together. So we went, and we killed it. And guess what? It freaking dropped. I didn't even know. I was just like, cool, I got the ring you guys told me. They're like, no, dude. Like, you don't understand. This is crazy. You're probably maybe even the only person on the server that has this. It was a big deal, dude. And I didn't even go to work. I couldn't possibly go to work after getting something this epic, because then I'm like looking it up and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that I got this. So very cool. Most rarest piece of loot I've ever owned in my life. It's probably the most valuable thing I've ever owned in my life, period. This thing was awesome, man. So that's definitely my number one. I don't think anything could possibly beat it.
That on there for thousands of dollars.
I could have. I absolutely could have.
Stands in Fire said, on use, skip a day of work.
Yeah, I couldn't go to work after that. I was like, oh, I'm not going to work. I can't go to work after this. So, yeah.
Yeah, that rune is still big for tanks, and it's still like one of the harder things to get.
Is it still hard? I heard that they did a quest line now, and you can cause King Behemoth to pop anytime. Is it not true?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't done that, but I know
Yeah,
there's a lot of people still trying to get that rune who still don't have it.
Oh, that's cool.
There you go. Do you still have that character, Nathan?
No, I don't. I don't.
Man,
He
that's
sold
awesome. He sold it. He sold it.
How do you think I bought this house, dude?
How do you think he made all the? How do you think he got all the gear to make all these puppets? All right. So that's awesome. That's a good story, man. Rare drop, rare spawn, and when we say rare, super rare. I don't know if I've ever heard of a mob that rare. And Mica, you know that one well. It sounds like so.
Yeah, and yeah, you haven't played Final Fantasy 11. You want to talk about rare? Oh my god.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
so much
Theric made
there.
a great comment. He said, "Spawn rarity, item rarity, bring these things back, Pantheon." That's how stories exist.
Yes.
When it was okay that you didn't have it, but it existed, and man, was it cool,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so Mica, we are bringing up your number one. Well, no, before we do, Nathan, what were some honorable mentions? Do you have any?
Sure. I'm afraid that my honorable mentions will be somebody's top one. Is that okay? Would that ruin things?
No.
'Cause I'm pretty sure. all right. So definitely the fungus covered scale tunic.
Yeah.
Classic. Fell strike. Classic. What else? I gotta say also, even though it seems silly, I was really proud also of my artifact gear of my paladin as well.
Okay.
That was pretty sick too, because I normally played a paladin. I just wanted to be a dragoon because that's like a very cool Final Fantasy only specific class.
Yeah, and they looked awesome. They had the cool helmets and stuff.
Oh, they look so cool, dude. But then as soon as that I realized that they suck. I immediately was like, well, I'll just play a paladin, I guess. And I was super happy to get that as well. That was like a pretty big moment for me. I think that's all I can think of right now. There's always I'm always chasing a piece of loot my whole life, but those were the most impactful, I think.
Okay. And we do have two. Mike, I'm keeping you on edge here, getting ready for your number one. Gulu Gulu said the Talisman of Va Karith in EverQuest. I got the second drop on Povar from my guild's first. Man, these words. A Tenha Ra kill in Vexthale. Just read that first sentence. Like, am I the only one who struggles?
No, because we never had to say them out loud usually, you know?
Just type them, yeah. I was top DKP and thought the guild leader would take it until she messaged me that I was getting it even without asking. People came up to me for months saying my neck was better than all of their gear.
Oh, that's cool.
I love it. Stands in Fire said, number one, petrified goat dropping in Lord of the Rings. Now that is the best name item ever. There is a quest in which literally cleaning up goat poop along a path in the mines of Moria. You got a pocket item trinket that is a petrified goat dropping, and you kept it for embracing, yep, we have a poop quest, and you will never forget that you did it.
I love it.
That's awesome. Okay. All right, Mica. It's really time now. Do you want to give your honorable mentions first or after?
I don't have much honorable mentions. I think the biggest one would probably be something like the Kieran's Osiode, which was something that was highly sought after in Final Fantasy 11.
Okay.
Dropped from one of the Sky Gods, so it was not easy to pop. Wasn't easy to get, but if you had it, you were kind of the shit. So.
All right. All right. Well, here's your number one then, coming up now.
Okay. Yeah. For me, it's the Assassin's Armlets from Dynamis Exarchbard in Final Fantasy 11.
Okay.
And this is kind of like the opposite of the joy use. So when we were finally high enough in my guild to start running Dynamis, we did the cities, and then we were going to move on to the Icelands. And that was from one of the Icelands. And I ran it with a different group just to check it out beforehand, before we gathered people, and because you could only go in twice a week, so we didn't want to gather people and then not have any idea what we were doing. We were in there, and this was back when relic gear was very hard to come by in those, and these armlets didn't drop very often. I mean, you could go multiple rounds without ever seeing them. And I was with a group of complete strangers, and these things dropped. And I was like, can I lot on them? And they were like, sure, dude. Whatever. Go ahead. So I lotted on them. About half the party lotted on them, and I got them. This was like the first time I've ever lotted on something and got it on my first try. Probably the only time since, too. That was highly sought after. And this was great, especially for playing a thief. I ran thief all the time as a crafter, trying to get drops to craft, and then also like I'd run thief a lot and stuff like Dynamis and stuff to get drops. So yeah, this was like a big deal, and I was so happy. I think I actually got out of my chair and danced a little bit when these things in my inventory. So yeah, it was pretty fun.
That's awesome.
So.
That's awesome. And so that treasure hunter, if I'm not mistaken, one of the big things about being a thief in Final Fantasy XI was if you brought a thief in with you, you had a better chance at loot, right?
Yep. Treasure hunter made loot drop, brought up the chances of loot dropping.
For everyone,
Not all loot,
yeah.
but most
Defending
loot,
arena didn't affect.
Right. That's what I was about to say. It didn't help for the percentage chance on the one that I got.
Yeah.
There was a rumor for many years that it did, and then finally Square Enix admitted that it didn't. But for most loot, treasure hunter, you wanted a thief with you at all times.
That's awesome. That's a cool mechanic. I would love something like that for rogues in Pantheon.
Me too.
All right.
Nothing but rogues. Make it stack, baby.
Nice. All right, so we did get number 2 from Theric, Rubicite armor. Oh, that was a good armor set. It was that beautiful red plate. Do you remember that, Nathan?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, so that's from EverQuest. You can only get it in early EQ from a drop. Once they took it out of the world, it became a rare thing. It was only available through the player economy. When you saw
that game had a unique texture. There was nothing. Maybe my memory's totally wrong, but from my memory, there was no other texture in the game that looked like that besides the armor. Right? Am I right?
Yeah, there's parts of my mind. Yeah, Theric says he believes so. Yeah, I think that's correct. It had some kind of weird etching or something, right? Didn't it have like a weird, it was like a reddish, yeah. It was like, to me, I always looked at it as like the red lambent because it had that, it was a bright enough red that it really stood out. It wasn't quite as bright as lambent, but yeah, I remember that. And Shepto says Rangers could wear it, so of course Theric loved it, so. All right.
Wait, Theric was a Ranger in early EQ?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he suffered.
Salute to you, sir. Salute to you.
Yeah, he's gonna be great at dying in Pantheon. We'll be set. And you missed it with us playing Valor. He can't find out where he is in the world if he doesn't have tracking. So it's a good thing that like Rangers can find their way around because he struggles. I'm gonna make a video of all the times I lost Theric playing Valor. It's hilarious. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys honorable mentions. So you had brought up the fungi tunic. Which is known as the fungus scaled tunic or whatever it's called. That was my number 5. And then Nathan, so I'm the only person who gets to see all these ahead of time because I got to set up the interface. And I was thinking about lambent armor whenever we originally came up with this concept of loot, and then I forgot. And Nathan put his in and had the armor set in his number 3 there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't put lambent armor in. So I had to sit there and look at my list and I had to put lambent in. I dropped off the fungus scaled tunic for lambent armor. And I loved that thing. So that was on my honorable mentions list. Another one from where I got the Orbis Sundari, Magisters Terrace, dropped the White Hawk Strider. It is a pretty basic mount. It was the Blood Elf mount, but you could get it as Alliance. I got that as well, and I used that mount until the day I quit as well. And that mount had the greatest spacebar animation, because if you didn't know in WoW when you're playing, if you hit spacebar, your mount will like do something and sometimes make a noise. And it was the Hawk Strider noise was the most annoying thing you could ever do in the history of the world. It was essentially, this is gonna be horrible, I'm gonna do it. It was basically like like that. And I could just when I wasn't tanking or we were waiting on a healer or we were waiting for a raid to get together and it was somewhere you can mount, I would just be sitting there hitting spacebar for like 10 minutes and people would be like minus or benefits, stop. And I just and everybody would have to turn their volume down because like I just would get so impatient because I want to get in a dungeon, I want to start killing, I want people to be on time, and I just and everyone would just get real mad, and eventually like after 10 minutes they just start laughing. Oh, I loved it so much. It was the best thing
I gotta
ever.
admit, I don't remember that sound. I hate to admit, I don't remember it. I'm trying so hard, I don't remember it.
Oh, it was so funny. I absolutely love it. Another one that was an honorable mention was the fighting battens. The fighting battens were a monk one-handed weapon, and they were pretty fast. And I remember the first time that I saw a monk, and what made me play a monk was the fighting battens because they were just hitting so fast, dual wielding them. And that was one of the first items I really wanted when I made my monk. Also, another monk item were Wu's trance sticks. Also extraordinarily fast, and they procced for smite. So you had these two just like long sticks and just like hitting them like crazy, and you're fast, and then all of a sudden they're proccing like smite and red damage everywhere, and it was so that there was a lot of monk items that were really cool for me. So those ones would definitely be in my honorable mention list. But my number one, too many stories, too much heartbreak. The Journeyman boots. So J boots, Nathan, you had it at number 2. That is my number 1 item in any game ever. I didn't comment a lot on your announcement of it because I knew I was going to have to talk a little bit here. And I had J boots on my wizard, my monk, my necro, and my bard, which that was controversial. Because you have run speed, and then they don't stack. But I've told the story before, but we did a 72-hour straight camp of the Ancient of Cyclops in Ocean of Tears. My desk was really big, and I had 2 computers set up, and we had both our accounts, me and a buddy, and we would play, and then we rotated sleeping. So I would sleep for 2 or 3 hours. So I would sleep and he would play both accounts. And if it spawned, he'd wake me up. And we did that for 72 hours. And I'll tell you the truth, the first 24 hours, we didn't get it. And it was rare.
Hang on, Midas. I think Shepto is bringing up a point you might want to make clear in your story here. I'm assuming based on what you're saying right now, this was back in the day when you had to get the J boots from the drop, right?
No, this is when you had to get the ancient Cyclops ring. So we were in the Ocean of Tears. Yeah, we were in the Ocean of Tears farming the Ancient Cyclops. So a lot of people farm the Ancient Cyclops in the South Row. You could kill all the stuff in the desert, and he could spawn as any mob possibly. It was like the yellow Ancient Cyclops. And there's a heartbreak story there, which I'll get to. But in Ocean of Tears, there was a small island, and there was this little like lip that went out, and there was a spot where like a thief spawned, and then like 2 other mob types would spawn in this one spot, and every 15 minutes that spawn popped, and it had a chance to be the Ancient Cyclops, and you could get a couple or you could never see it. It was just completely random. So the first 24 hours we didn't get one spawn, not one. And you guys know how it is, even though it doesn't really make sense. We're like, well, we spent 24 hours, it's gonna drop next, it's got to be the next one, it's got to be the next one, it's got to be the next one. So we had only planned to farm it that night. We were keeping a list. We had all the people we're supposed to contact, like, when you can take the camp, come on over. And we couldn't quit because we had spent so much time. So we went through the next day and we started getting it, and it started dropping commonly. So what was happening is like one person would hold the corpse and just sit there looting it, and someone would bring their other character over. So we would take turns. Like I'd bring a character, he'd bring a character, I'd bring a character, he'd bring a character. So it got to the point where like we got the last one like 3 days in, and I was like, well, I'll bring my bard. He's like, why are you going to do that? I'm like, I just want the clicky. And I used to make people so mad because I'd go into the East Common tunnels as a bard and right click them. And people would be like, why did you get those on a bard? That's so useless. Like they were so mad because they didn't have it. And I would literally just sit there clicking. I'm like, too hot feels faster. Too hot feels faster. Too hot feels faster. But yeah, all the characters that I mained and played, I had those on, and I loved them. Now the heartbreak side, In South Row, I was farming it, and it spawned, and I was playing a wizard, and I was soloing, and it spawned in the corner, so no one was around me. And this was the first time. I've never had any J boots yet. My heart like stopped. Like I was shaking. Like I couldn't. I don't know if you guys have ever had this moment like in a game, like especially in MMO, where you're just so nervous and like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this is happening. I'm like shaking, and I'm having a hard time like just doing my basic rotation. And on a wizard, you had to like really be careful. So I'm like running around, and I'm kiting him, and I'm killing him, and I'm keeping him in this corner so people don't see what I'm doing. And I hit him with the last whatever spell I used, probably like Ice Comet, and you see him like starting to do the fall, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna get this, and I walk over and I go link dead. Yep, and I literally like started to have like a nervous breakdown. Like I'm sitting in front of my computer as like a 16-year-old kid, just like almost ready to cry. Pretty much, I'm just gonna admit it. Like I had like tears of frustration and anger. I wasn't like sobbing, but I was like literally wanted to break my computer. So I'm like trying to get back in. I get in, and there's two people there sitting there, and they looted it and got the ring. I was just like, and at this point I didn't have J boots yet. That was the first. So that kind of set me off in saying I need to get these. And that's why I got them for all my characters. Cause like that moment is one of the most soul crushing moments that I ever had going link dead. And anyone who plays EQ knows going link dead was common. That happened.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. So that was mine. Theric, I don't think we have your number one. If you want to throw it up there, we had your number 2 in Rubicite. So if you want to throw yours up there, if anybody else wants to throw out any final comments, it looks like, oh, that's a good one. Theric put out his number 1, the short sword of the Keisha. Dual wield, huge DPS, perfect ranger weapon. They had that crazy tilted blade. The two of them got it in lower guck. And that reminds me another one of mine, Nathan, the FBSS was another honorable mention for sure. Well, that's everything. You guys are awesome. The chat was really great tonight. Thank you guys for sharing your top 5. We had a lot of awesome comments in there. I know we didn't get to everything, but that is incredible. So I love what you guys did. Mica, that's episode 2. We got Golden Girls in twice. And Nathan, thank you for being a co-host or special guest on the show with me and Mica here. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed talking about loot. If anyone doesn't know, the way this show works is the topic we pick is actually voted on by you guys on our YouTube channel. So you go to youtube.com/Pantheon Plus/community, and we'll have a poll up that runs until like a week before the episode because we need a week to prep. Now, I will give you guys a heads up that I am going to training next week. So there's a good chance we're not going to have any streams because I'm going to be going about 3 hours away and staying there for about a week. Now, the next episode will either be this upcoming Tuesday or the Tuesday after. And our topic has been picked by you guys in the community. We are going to be doing the topic of top video game villains. And I am so looking forward to this one. This one's going to be a lot easier than the loot. Yeah, this is going to be fun.
So actually, I don't know if it's going to be easier than the loot because where this one, it was hard to really find stuff. That one's going to be hard to narrow it down.
Yeah, that's understandable. So we'll be talking. So if you guys that watch the show and come hang out with us, get your lists ready. We'll love to read them. So many good villains out there, but top 5 gaming villains. And what we'll do is shortly after, probably tomorrow, I'll put up a new poll for the show that'll be after that, and you guys can start voting on that. Remember, guys, in the comments to these videos when they're on demand or in the actual voting, put different things that you'd like in there. One of them, by the way, Mica, they said was the worst gaming music. And I immediately had one come to my head. I don't know if I could do 5, though. That's the problem. But number 1, hands down. I'm actually going to say it, because even if we do the show, it's still going to be there. The worst ever, Marvel vs. Capcom. Gonna take you for a ride. Nathan, you know it.
I do know it.
It's the worst. It's the worst ever.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot while we're still live.
Okay.
Who's the co-host for the villain one?
We don't have one yet.
Dude, you gotta get me back on. That's the best topic I've ever heard. That is the best topic I've ever heard.
All right. Well, it looks like we just live on the air. We found our co-host. So I'll let you.
I had to put you on the spot live. I want to be on that show. That's too good.
All right. Special guest NathanNAPALM will come back for another Rankum. I love it. Yeah. So it'll either be this upcoming Tuesday or the Tuesday after. Michael Abrams said no P plus U next week. If I'm out of town, no, I can't. Even if I take my Surface Studio, it doesn't have the power to do what we do on that show with the different stuff. But this week's what's that?
Someone said I'm the biggest villain. How am I the biggest villain?
I don't know. It's Mirth, so he's mirthing around.
So that plant growing, he thinks you're up to something.
Yeah, that's his plants, yeah. This week's Pantheon plus You, 2 days from now, is going to be, we're going to talk, me and Theric are going to be really heavy breaking down that perception video that we saw. We're going to like literally go through and take timestamps and things we want to talk about and really open it up to conversation, because it has been a hot topic on people talking about like what the perception is going to be like of system, and should there be rewards, should there not be, is being able to miss a quest line acceptable? There's just so much to talk about, and we want to really get in and break down the things he was saying and try to provide some clarity, but also get into it. So we're going to do a whole show of Pantheon plus You this week, dissecting that video, showing it on screen. It should be a lot of fun. And then when we do come back, we'll be bringing Nathan back for the best video game villains of all time. So prep your guys' list. If you come to rank them, we want to see what your top 5 are, and vote on the next topic after that. And guys, we'll do anything on this show. It doesn't have to be video game. If you want us to put our best favorite fruits here, we got it. You want to hear the best top 5 cereals? We got it. You want to hear the best 5 toppings to put on pizza? You got it. Whatever you guys want, we're going to rank. That's what this show is all about. We'll stick to video games as much as you guys want, because we love video games. But we can also do some pretty crazy stuff. So make your suggestions of what you want us to rank, and we will go. So thank you, everybody. I really do appreciate everyone who comes and hangs out for these shows. You guys have been awesome. Top 5 Monster Energy flavors. White. The white one. It's the best. The white one's amazing. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Minus his top 5 favorite elves.
I brought that one up as a suggestion when we were coming up with this. When we were coming up with this show.
Top 5 favorite elves.
Well, I'm number 1, obviously.
Well, you got Theric. So you were Theric, I guess. All right, guys. Again, thank everybody. We keep dragging it on, but it's been a ton of fun. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you. Hopefully, if not next week, the week after. But it's only going to be 1 week. It's either going to be next week or the week after, and I'll keep everybody updated on social media. Micah, as always, my co-host. Thank you very much. Nathan, our special guest, 2 weeks in a row, it looks like. I am excited for the villains contest. So start thinking them up and let me know, guys. And then again, you guys let us know. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.
See ya.
See you guys.